Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Containers exam EX188. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click the subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, make sure you click like. As a reminder, these are my practice session videos for the exam where I'm going through the objectives and trying to talk about them and explain them and possibly do some exercises with the objectives for the purpose of doing a self-assessment. My exam is just under a week away, and my goal at the end of the video, hopefully I'll be able to say, hey, I feel pretty confident about the objective, and if not, then I have about a week to do a little bit of brushing up before the exam. These are not intended to be training materials, nor are they intended to be a tutorial for preparing for the exam, but rather I figure as I'm doing my own final preparations, because I'm still learning as well, I'd share them with everyone, because perhaps some of the things that I'm doing to prepare myself for the exam might give you some ideas of things that you can do for your own preparation. All that being said, I do try to have the information accurate, but again, these are not training materials, nor are they a tutorial. And if I get something wrong, feel free to put it in the comments, because I'm sure anyone else that would be watching this and seeing what I'm doing for my practice would like to see accurate information. So we're almost at the end of the objective list, and I think for this video, since some of these within the Troubleshoot containerized applications objectives, some of these we've hit before. I mean, for example, inspect running applications, and get application logs. Well, that was a part of run containers locally using Podman. I don't think there was one that was connecting to running containers, and I guess understand the description of application resources. Perhaps that's getting into like understanding namespaces and such, which I have a cursory understanding of what's going on, but I don't, I'm not a kernel dev by any means. So I think I'm just going to lump all four of these together in one practice session here, just about troubleshooting. And all the other practice sessions I've probably had to do, I know I've had to do some level of troubleshooting, because things that I try don't work. And that's actually a good way of learning some things, especially if you're trying to learn what to look for to know what to troubleshoot. Make your stuff and break it and see what happens. So let's do this. I'm going to break Apache, and obviously I know what I'm going to do to mess Apache up. So it's not pure troubleshooting from the perspective of, hey, this thing is broken, I don't know what has happened to it, I have to figure out what's happened to it, but we'll be able to work a couple of these things here. First, I'm just going to make a container that is going to run Apache, and then I'm going to take the configuration file from it. So let me do podman run -d. This is going to go away when I stop the container, and it's just going to be registry.access.redhat.com ubi8 httpd24. So it'll take a moment or so for this to pull down the image and start the container. Then I'm going to copy the configuration file out of it. Okay, so let's do podman cp, and we are wanting to copy from Fervent Hawking, which ended up being the name of this container, etc. See if I can remember where this is. So etc httpd conf httpd.conf I think is where the default file is, and we're going to copy that just to cat httpd.conf. Yep, that's what I wanted to see. So good, we'll stop the container. Not podman, podman stop, but we need the container name, and that'll of course clear the container because it is no more. You find it curious that it copies with 777 permissions, but that's fine. So we're going to, first of all, I'm going to change that to 644. Not that I have to do that, but it just messes with me seeing that green. So we're going to make a backup of this, and let's go in and break something. We'll do this. Let's change this listen to 8081. And let's make us a new image. We'll do from the Apache image, we're going to copy httpd.conf to etc httpd conf httpd.conf. And let's see. I'm trying to think what I'm wanting to set up. What I'm wanting to set up is, and this is probably a highly unlikely scenario, but let's say that we have said that 8080 is the exposed port, and in fact someone messed up the image and configured it to be 8081. You know, what can we do to try to figure out what's going on here? So I think that's all that I need for that. So Podman build, we're going to call it broken Apache, or just broken-Apache. So let's say we have the scenario of we need to run this container. So Podman run in the background. We're going to give it a name web1. We're going to expose port 8080, or rather we're going to publish port 8080, and we're going to use the broken Apache container image. All right, and I'm presented with Podman PS, and we see we're listening on 8080, and let's say the objective is, you know, troubleshoot why why you can't load the web page and do a fix. So go into private mode for this so we don't have stuff that gets cached. HTTP localhost 8080. And it's going to try, and it says the connection was reset, you know, stuff is not working. So if I were to troubleshoot this, where could we go for this? Now, of course, this is a contrived kind of thing. I know exactly what I did to break it, but following what the objectives talk about, let's see. All right, so let's say we want to check application logs. So what we can do, Podman log web1, no, Podman logs plural, web1. And this, let's see if this gives us any useful information. So far, no. So the actual logs of the container aren't showing a problem because from the container's perspective, everything's running fine. You know, Apache doesn't have an issue. So let's say that we wanted to get into the container and try to dig around. Now this, I've tried to do like Podman start and some other videos and get into a UBI container, and it just stops immediately because of how Bash works. Things like Apache, you can use the Podman exec command to basically run commands against a running container. So I could, I guess, try to do like, there's a better way of doing this in my opinion, but we'll try Podman exec web1, and I want to cat, see if I can remember off the top of my head, will be var logs httpd access.log, I think is the log file. No. All right, so we're going to go into an interactive session with web1, and the I is interactive, the T is basically making a terminal session, and the command that we're going to run is bin bash, and hostname is the container ID. So connection reset, often I think of kind of a firewall as something with that, but let's see, I know systemd is really not running on this, so there's not going to be firewall D. Let's see if IP tables is a thing. Nope, IP tables isn't. Let's see if NFT is. NFT is not a thing. So not quite sure how I would troubleshoot if it were firewall. Maybe I'll play with that one day. But let's say that, you know, we know that Apache is running from the container log. So let's see if we can figure out what Apache is listening on. Perhaps that's the issue. But before I go into that, because obviously I know that's what the problem is, let's go into var logs. There is no var logs. var log. I think I'm thinking logs from Podman logs. It's plural, but so var log httpd. Well, even then, there wouldn't have been the access.log that I would expect. Just curious to see what's in this modsec debug log. Nothing. So I don't have any application logs to look at. So the next thing I will probably look at is the configuration of this. So we can go into etc httpd or conf httpd.conf. And I can't change directory into a file, but we can go into here and see if less is available to us. It is. So we go through, oh, and lo and behold, we're listening on 8081. So what I need to do is run the container with 8081. But perhaps and to do that, I can just stop this container and run another container from the image and do -p8081. But let's say that the objective says, all right, so what you need to do is, make from this container, because let's say this container had special configurations and such on it. Using this container, make a new image that that either properly, says expose 8081 instead of 8080, or make a new image that that has the correct listening port. So let's say that we want to make a new image that would then be using the correct listening port. Let's say we go that method. So let's exit out of this, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the container. All right, what we can do is, I'm pretty sure it's Podman commit that will basically make an image of an existing container. So we can do Podman image or Podman commit web1. Is anything with help with this? So I know when I've done this in the past, it doesn't. I guess you can change some stuff. You can give it an entry point and the like, which is kind of cool. But that's not how I'm going to approach this. But we're just going to do Podman commit web1. So what that will give us is an image that doesn't have a tag. So what I'm actually going to do is see if I can do this with the image ID. Usually when I'm using a from statement, I'm getting from a repository, but we're going to see if I can just use it with image ID. And let's see, the back one should have what I want. Yep. So let's make us a new container file, and we're going to keep our expose 8080. We're going to try to use just the image ID. I'm curious to see if this will work. And we are going to use the backup one to make this be httpd.conf. And let's say that they wanted us to build this with the tag fixed Apache. And let's see what happens. Yep, it was able to get that from the image ID. And if we look at our Podman images, I'm actually kind of surprised that image is gone. Wasn't expecting that to happen. But we have our fixed Apache, and let's try to run our let's see, Podman ps-a, because of course that that container was stopped. So we'll do Podman run -d. We'll give this a name of web2. We'll expose or publish port 8080, and we'll use our fixed Apache image. All right, Podman ps, that looks like it's up. And so let's start us a new private browsing window, localhost 8080. And there is our default Apache page. And so I think, let's see what all we hit with doing this. So we definitely looked at application logs. There were no logs there. We looked at the container logs. We connected to a running container with Podman exec. I do want to show a gotcha with this. And I was experimenting some before I decided to record a practice session. And this is apparently intended behavior. So I find it kind of curious. So what I did was that Podman exec to run bin bash, but there is a Podman attach, and this attach is not necessarily giving you a shell to work with as much as it will it'll basically attach your current terminal session to where you can see the standard output for a container. And let's see if I can demonstrate this. So if I were to just look at the help for Podman attach, it tells you right here you have options for detach keys. This only applies if there's some type of terminal session going on, and simply attaching to a container does not make that session. And so I did a little bit of research, found a Bugzilla complaint and such about it. And basically the answer to this is, yep, does as intended. If you were to have done, I guess, I'm not even sure how you would have something in the background that would have a terminal session for you to connect with. I'm sure there probably is. And if you know, feel free to put that in the comments. But if you just, like if we were to just attach to our Web 2 server, the default detach keys are, I think, Control, well, it actually says it here, Control P, Control Q. Nothing is going to happen. And I think one of the tickets, or one of the little Bugzilla things was like, can we update the documentation to say, hey, this only applies if there's some type of terminal involved? But there was no response to that. Maybe I myself will see if I can find a way to make a pull request to change that documentation, just because I would think, hey, this is a thing you can do anytime that you attach. But what I am going to show you, and this actually was mentioned, I think, by one of the Podman developers, as this is how you would work around this. If I were to do PSAUX, or not PAUX, PSAUX. So we see our owned by my user sub-GUID, all the Apache stuff. So let's attach Podman attach Web 2. And so at this point, if there are any logs that happen with the container, then, or any standard output that container is going to make, it'll start appearing because we have attached to that standard output stream. If I do PSAUX, we'll now see a process that is attaching, that's the attach process for Web 2. So if you have found yourself in this situation where if I do Control P, Control Q, or Control Q, Control P, and nothing's happening, you're not getting out of the session, you need to specifically send a kill 9 signal to this Podman attach Web 2 process. If you send a signal other than kill 9, it's going to, I'm not sure exactly how it works. The developer explained it in their little thing, but basically all signals are interpreted to tell the container, hey, do a clean stop, right? And we don't want that. All we want to do, we want to keep our web server going. We just want to get unattached from that container. If I were to simply close this, the actual container process will be, or processes will be stopped. So kill -9, we're going to do process 6144. Back over here, we see that attach has been killed. But if I do my Podman PS, we see that the web server is still cooking along. If I were to reattach, so I'm stuck with this, can't get anything done. I Control C out of it. Well, what that does, I'll just do it here, Podman PS, container's not running anymore. And so that basically the sig term was not for just attaching to the container. The sig term was sent to the container itself. But kill 9 for specifically the process that was used to attach to the container will get you out of it. Let's see what else on this from a troubleshooting perspective. I mean, I can go through various scenarios, but I think I've covered that with a lot of my other practice session videos. as you're doing your last bit of preparation, kind of go through some troubleshooting scenarios, make stuff up like this and break it, and see if you can find your way out of it. Let's see, inspect running applications. Really, that would be, in my opinion, just inspecting the container itself. So let's do Podman inspect this running container of web 2, pipe that to good old JQ. Probably what would be useful out of this is what's in state, because that'll give us our process IDs and such. And this can give us relevant information about storage. Give us information about your network settings. This one, and some of these, like I know that I can just do JQ dot bracket dot or square bracket dot network settings to just get right to the network stuff. This can be useful if, let's say, you have a container that wasn't attached to your network, and that's you can inspect that, but the container itself is running. You can inspect the running container and see what its network settings and such are. I guess another one is a DNS thing, because if I were to do Podman network ls, the default little network that Podman has, network inspect, Podman does not have the internal DNS mechanism turned on. So if you have to have something that needs to do name resolution with the container name, you will need to make another network, which then by default will have DNS enabled. I don't know of a way to reconfigure this to have DNS enabled. If you know of one, feel free to put that in the comments. But I think most times, or at least the examples that I've looked at with my own training, most times it's just make another network to use. And let's see, so inspect running applications, we've done that several times. Understand the description of application resources. Not 100% sure what that is talking about, unless, like, we'll get, and this might be true here, down here it talks about we're not going to be writing applications, but we'll be working with pre-written applications, and you might have to troubleshoot using the documentation that's provided for said application. Perhaps that would be what we're looking at for understand the description of application resources. Otherwise, I might do some searching of Dr. Google and see if that particular phrase comes up in Red Hat documentation. And actually, as a matter of fact, we'll do this real quick. This is how I found out about the little kubelet thing. Of course, Control-Shift-C in a browser turns on all the dev console stuff. Well, yeah, that takes you to the actual Red Hat training course, which then will take you to the objectives. And oh, here's a link right to the objectives. So let's see if there's a phrase for this within Red Hat documentation at all. Probably not, because I mean, troubleshooting's a real generalized kind of thing. Yeah, it just takes you to, there may be something with that. We'll see. But I think as far as just basic troubleshooting, which I suspect, because this exam is really kind of the first in their OpenShift line of stuff, because you need to have an understanding of containers before you can really dig into your container orchestration. So I don't expect whatever things that are broke that we have to troubleshoot to be super complicated. Obviously, we'll have to think about it and go through logs and use basic troubleshooting methods and such. But I don't think it's going to be anything too ridiculous. Of course, I might be in for a rude awakening on the exam. Hopefully not. And if I am, I might say, hey, this was a challenge, but obviously I can't talk about whatever it was on the exam. But I would say in general, I think I'm ready to go with troubleshooting. So if you found the video useful or enjoyed it, make sure you do click like. I, as always, want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, and invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, to do that and ring the bell so you know when I do make some new content, which I try to get onto a cadence with that, but life often gets in the way. So I produce content as I have both the time and the inspiration to do so. Hopefully it'll be more often, but if not, if you've rung the bell, you'll know when I do it. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I will see you the next time.